are so loud saying that, oh, you should be okay with failures. It's a small team and you are able to do so many things. What is the meaning of life?
And it also shows how AI doesn't take our jobs.
And I think a custom GPT is probably one of the easiest things to build.
Hello, Klara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just for context, we just recorded an episode where I'm the guest and Klara is the host. So we're switching things up because Klara has lots of knowledge in general when it comes to AI, and she came in today to tell us a bit about that. But before we go into that, Klara, can you tell us, like, how did you get started with AI?
Yeah, happy to. So I clearly remember that I was downloading ChatGPT a couple of days after it launched. I was very curious, and I still remember my very first question, which was, "What is the meaning of life?" I had to understand, like after a while, that it's not the question that you ask from AI. But ever since, I think what helped me most is really just getting to this mindset of trying things out, seeing what works, how can you use it, what can you use it for, and really trying to just be up to date with all the tools that are coming out seemingly like every second these days.
You have quite a nice story because you were also part of, like, quite a few communities that are actually very AI focused. Can you tell people a bit about that in case they're interested in, like, getting their hands dirty?
Yeah, of course. So it was a very funny timing because after I just left my corporate job, in the meantime I applied for a Perplexity AI business fellowship. And I did not think that I will get in. I was like, who am I to even apply? But I was very curious to see like what is Perplexity about. And funny enough, after I left my job, I basically got into the fellowship, which was like again very funny timing, and it really gave me almost like permission to try out more things. And as soon as something came out, we were lucky with that group that we were able to beta test a lot of things and really have access to people within the industry. Like we had Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, who came in for a fireside chat, to a lot of really interesting people who were using Perplexity or AI, or are really in this forefront of the technology. And how they called us after was that we are going to be the pioneers of the industry, which I still didn't think that was true. But it's a very interesting network. You see what's possible, and you get into this bubble of seeing people like running companies and running, like as you see with a lot of these new companies now, that it's very lean. It's a small team, and you are able to do so many things. And it's interesting to see these like people who are building agents and building like orchestrations and all of that, versus a lot of other people who are just not there yet and haven't even tried building and haven't even tried, I don't know, just like diving deeper into tools. So I think it's a long-winded answer,
Yeah,
but
no. This is perfect because I feel like it's such a good reflection on what community gives you,
yeah.
because it gives you permission. It's so interesting you mentioned this word. It gives you exposure, quite a lot of exposure, even, I guess, for people who are not ready to try things out. At least you're part of a group that is working on it, so you constantly see things. But once you're ready to try things out, I think there's a lot of support coming from these communities as well. And it doesn't need to be like a community related to a tool, even like other communities. For us as an L&D community, to come together and talk about this is so important. And it also shows how AI doesn't take our jobs, right? Because you still need community. That's the reality to learn things. So okay, but How are you using AI now?
I use it a lot, mostly because I started out this year as a solopreneur, so I had to really quickly learn everything. So like once you don't have the corporate comfy structures and infrastructure behind you, you have to learn so many things that you didn't even think about before, like how do you run a business, how do you do tax, sales, how do you do everything, how do you create a website for yourself. So I think it was the perfect timing for me again, just because without the AI tools, I would have probably needed much more time to actually learn all of these things. So I kind of started with an AI first mindset of running my business, but also whatever I do, I try it with AI first. Which is, like obviously a mindset shift that you need to do. I have Google Workspace, so I use Gemini quite a lot because it integrates quite nicely with everything. I have very specific, like custom built custom GPTs, but also like custom gems, for example. I use Lovable to build my website. I do some automations as well. So there's a lot, and it kind of is already integrated into how I work and how I do things. But on personal side as well, like I use it quite a lot. Like what's in my fridge, and then trying to get some inspiration on what can I cook for the night, or just random things as well.
Yeah, yeah. I got so many recommendations for books out of out of ChatGPT, books and TV shows that I could
Yeah.
watch. Yeah, I totally get you. But what are you gonna show us today?
Yeah, so as much as I would love to show all the complex tools and all the builds, I I wanted to be very intentional about what I bring in as the first thing. And I try to reflect back on what helped me most when I started out with AI and with the tools. And I think a custom GPT is probably one of the easiest things to build. There is a complex way of building it, and hopefully we will get there as well, and we will get into like how to do system instructions and how to make it much more robust. But there is a very easy way, a very conversational way of building custom GPTs. And custom GPTs are great because if you and how you think about it matters quite a lot. So if you think about something that is a very specific problem that you're trying to solve for, that's where custom GPTs can be super impactful. So the more narrow you are with your problem that you're trying to solve for, the better the custom GPT is going to be. And I think it's a good way to just start thinking through, like, how do you prompt it? How do you think about the role? How do you think about the context? What is the output that you want to see? And it's a very scalable way to provide like access to different things.
Before we go into seeing you actually building the custom GPT, I was wondering like what use cases could L&Ds have for using custom
Yeah,
GPTs?
I think that's a good question. When you think of, basically, you could either build something for yourself that you are using for you. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's I do have an advisor, so like I call it the learning advisor, where obviously like it's much more, it has evolved a lot throughout the times, but it started as like, oh, if I want to actually brainstorm on how to build learning experiences, I just want to have something that I can bounce ideas off. So a learning advisor. Now I already have a lot of deep research that I added as its knowledge base. So you can obviously like build it up. But I also started it with just a bare bones custom GPT that was for me to brainstorm around a very specific thing that I wanted to solve for. Another thing, and that's like building for yourself versus I think when it comes to L&D, you can also think of what do you build for others and how do you make others' lives easier. So one of the things that I'm going to show you is how you can build a custom GPT for managers to have difficult conversations. So it's almost like a coach that helps you role play it out, but also gives you some feedback. So what can you build for others to help make your life easier? Because, like role play is not something that people really like to do in a setup, but with custom GPTs, it's super easy. I think one of the really good use cases is onboarding. So like I think one thing that I wanted to call out here is depending on what is the access that you have, whether you have a free account, whether you have something that is an enterprise account. Obviously, if your company is using ChatGPT and you have the enterprise access, it's much easier to add in policies, etc. So an onboarding buddy could be a super, super good way of using or building a custom GPT for that. But I would be very cautious doing that if you have a free account. So you are only able to build custom GPTs if you don't have the free account. So with the free account, and I will show you, you can explore the different custom GPTs that others have built, but you need to have a paid account to be able to actually build a custom GPT.
Right. That's a very good call out. Shall we go into it?
Yes, let's do it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try and find my... All right. So as you can see, this is my own, and it's very messy. Like I have so many different things. I have been trying it out for various different things. There is one, clearly this is Hungarian. This is a custom GPT I built for my mom who wanted to learn English. So basically it understands Hungarian and English, and it's kind of trying to help her, just like try things out and kind of motivate her in a way. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways how you can use this. So I have a lot of different GPTs. One of the other personal one that I wanted to share, because I think when you start out with these tools, the easiest way to think about is what are your low stakes projects. And maybe it's a bit contradictory, because I did say that, like what are the problems that you're trying to solve, but at the same time, like what are those low stakes projects where you feel like you can really play around a bit and try it out. And one of these for me, you do see I have a lot of different things, but I have a movie night mate. This was the first custom GPT I actually built, because in our household, we have a tradition that every Saturday, well, these days not necessarily every Saturday, but we try to do a movie night. And the game is that either I recommend 3 movies and my husband is selecting one, or he recommends 3 and I select one. But after a while, it's getting like, okay, so how do you find these movies? So this was our like household build hackathon where we built this custom GPT to really help us, just like find new movies. So let's say I am a sci-fi fan, and this has very built-in instructions on let the user really just like try and answer a couple of questions before I recommend you something. So it just says, tailor the perfect trio. Could you tell me, do you prefer thoughtful or action heavy? And one of the things that I also wanted to show here is that you can always use voice mode as well. So if you just wanted to like have your phone out and have a conversation, you can do that. I won't do that here, but let's say thoughtful. I want thoughtful one. And then the second question was, are there specific tones, eras, or subgenres you lean toward? I do like a good utopia. So let's say I want something thoughtful and the utopia. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because in my system instructions, I told it to give me 3 different ones, and also give me the IMDb and the Rotten Tomatoes score, so I don't have to just like try and figure out whether it's considered high ranking or not. So whether these are good or not, that's another question, or whether you have seen these. So I think that's going to be the next level for this. So it gives me 3 recommendations. Okay. So
Nice.
this is just a personal, like, fun example if you are looking for something that's low stakes, and I feel like it's much easier to start it with something personal. But when it comes to any other custom GPTs, so here you see that on my sidebar, I do have a lot of these already pinned. But if you, under GPTs, you go to explore, this is where you can see what others have built, and this is where you can see your own and also like create your own. So you can actually find a lot of different GPTs that people have built before. So let's say if you want to see what they have built for learning, English and language learning, you have, machine learning obviously is there, English learning, a learning assistance offering educational guidance. One of the things that I would call out here, you don't know who built it and you don't know what is the knowledge base. So if you have the opportunity to build your own, I would always just recommend building your own. But if you have the free account, obviously you can, try out these different GPTs that others have built. So depending on what you're looking for, as you can see, there's a lot of different topics already here. So you have your writing, you have productivity, research and analysis, programming, education, lifestyle. So whatever specific problem you're trying to solve, I'm pretty confident you're going to find a GPT that is kind of built for that specifically. But if you want to just start from scratch, you would, on the top right hand corner, you would click on create. And what it does, it basically gives you this interface where you can choose between creating and configuring. The configure, this is where I would start, and I would just give it a name. So as I mentioned, I wanted to have difficult conversation coach, let's say, a difficult conversation coach. You can add the description. This bot is going to help you role play difficult conversations. I wish I could type. And then you could actually add the instructions here and add everything else. I won't do it right now because I want to actually do it through the create button. But I wanted to give it a name.
What's the difference? What's the difference between the
Yeah.
two?
So the create is very much this conversational way of, it's asking you like, what would you like to make? And if you're not necessarily sure yet, or you don't have the more complex system instruction ready, I would do it with the create and kind of have a conversation. You can always just go back and forth as well. I would use the configure if I already have a much more robust system instruction that I can just copy paste here. The conversation starters you can add now, or it will actually suggest a couple once you started creating it. So we will come back to the configure. I can actually go through all of these. So like conversation starters would be the first 4 like blocks that you see when you navigate to the custom GPT. Obviously here, if you want it to be much more robust, and you can actually add knowledge base. So let's say for difficult conversations, what you could add here is you could add any article, or you could add any research that you read that is around how to have these difficult conversations, or how the coach, for example, could give feedback. So this is a very good way of adding much more, like basically a knowledge base into the custom GPT. When it comes to your onboarding body, for example, this is where you would add the policies and anything that you wanted to kind of reference and know. You can also select the recommended model. You can leave it up to users. But I think generally, if you wanted to have a conversation, if it's more about like a personal thing, I would probably go for GPT-5 Pro or even thinking, so that it really thinks through what is the answer.
Mhm.
When it comes to capabilities, you can add web search. Obviously, that means that it can go out and search on the web. Canvas, I don't think for this you need Canvas, but you can leave it in. Canvas is basically something that you can create like an infographic, etc. We can leave it in if someone wants to, like create an infographic out of the conversation, image generation, and then we have the code interpreter, which you don't necessarily need for a coach. So let me go back to the create, and here, let me just try this and kind of like have a conversation with it. So I would like to create a custom bot that basically helps managers role play out a difficult conversation with their teammate or employee. And then after that gives constructive feedback on how it went, what can they do better. And I would just, it's very much like conversational in that perspective, and it will probably give me some questions back.
How come you use the voice, no, the voice part and not typing it? Is just that like more comfortable for you?
I hate typing. I don't know how to type whenever I have to share my screen. And just in general, it's actually much more quicker
Mhm.
to do voice. Now you can use your like built-in stuff, or there is Whisperflow that is like basically built for all of this. I think it's just much easier to, when you're like saying it out loud, it's much easier. Like you overcomplicate it a bit when you type it. At least for me, I think it's just easier
Mhm.
to use voice mode.
Okay. Thank you. What did it give you? Let's see.
Yeah, obviously love the use case, practical, high impact. Let's see. The GPT is designed to role play difficult conversations with managers, performance concerns, behavior issues, missed deadlines. It will ask for context first. I like that it's asking for context. Like, why would it give feedback if it doesn't necessarily understand the situation? Um, Stay realistic and psychologically safe, respond in a natural way. And this is where I would make sure that I like what it gives out, but also give it feedback if something is like, oh, maybe add something else. Give structured feedback, situation, behavior, coach, not judge. That's great. Be efficient. Default prompts. It gave out a very good as a first try. Can help you rehearse tough conversations. Propose name, conversation coach. Okay. Um, I would just probably say one more thing here. Nice. Make sure that you also kind of, when it comes to the initial conversation, to help the manager reflect on this situation. So when they describe the situation, ask maximum two questions around, like how did they get there, or what is the context, so you can give very specific feedback as well. Okay. All right. So you can very much like fine tune at this point on, maybe you have a specific way you would like them to be coached on. Like maybe you have some coaching frameworks that you can actually add to the
Mhm.
knowledge base, or you can add, maybe as someone who is oh, there you go. We already have the like 4
Mhm.
recommended things, like tough performance
Mhm.
conversation, role play, defensive, someone is defensive, conflict conversation, how I deliver clear feedback. And, like I think one of the best ways to, let's create it. So let's make sure that, right. And when it comes to sharing, I think that's the one thing I wanted to call out. You can create this just for yourself. I do have a lot that are just
Mhm.
created for myself. You are able to share it within your workspace. So if you use it as a company, you can share it with your teammates or with your team or with the managers, basically. Or you can make it as a public thing that
Mhm.
like, for example, this one, there's nothing that is very secretive, so I could actually
Mhm.
do that. Let's see the
But
yeah.
how about the more complex system instructions? Will you show a bit of that as well after we play around with it?
I mean, we can. Usually, it's a bit more. I try to do that with another custom GPT that is
Mm.
basically I created that for me to be able to have better system instruction. So it has a very specific way of sorry, it's a custom GPT that helps you basically write better system instructions. So that's what I would
Mhm.
use to actually have a more structured way of having a system instruction. But happy to go back into that. Let's just try it out and see whether it's even like working, or whether it's giving me something that I want to see. um what do we want to do? Tough performance. Let's do tough performance conversation. Yep. Because it's on pro thinking, clearly it's thinking quite a lot. So this is one of the trade-offs. If you find or choose a model that is like pro or thinking,
Mhm.
it will think quite a lot. So um,
So if you choose a model, it's gonna use only that model. But if you don't choose a model, it's gonna leave it up to the user to choose whatever model they want to use,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay, okay, got it. How long did it take you to go from, I want to build something just to play around to actually, having the confidence to building something that's for your work, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I built a couple of, let's say, very shitty ones. I built a couple of custom
Mhm.
GPTs that I just left there because it was not
Mhm.
working. Um, Definitely the good way of thinking about it is that you build something and you try to go back and iterate, because when like there is when ChatGPT 5 came out, you had to kind of go back to your custom GPTs and check whether it's exactly the same or not. So sometimes you have to go back, change, or try it out again, iterate, add better system instruction to it. I'm not sure why this is taking so long. So I am very happy that we are again at this point where it's not working as you wanted it to be.
There you
All right, there
go.
you go. So I did ask it to, like, let's describe the situation first, include one or two concrete examples. Um, and then I did ask it to ask for two reflection questions so that it understands the context a bit better. Um, so, what expectations were explicitly set? What feedback support have you already provided? Outcome and stakes. What do you want to achieve from this conversation? Recommit to goals, role change, and by when. And then you can use this 1 minute opener when you're ready to role play. Oh, do we want to do this? I'm not sure. I've never been a manager, so thankfully I didn't had to do the tough performance conversations. But let's see. I do have
Let's talk
person on my team who has not been performing well for the last like 3 months. They kept missing the deadlines, and it very much impacted the whole team. The expectations were set because we did talk about goals, but nothing really happened. I tried to give some feedback, but they did not really listen to it. Um, okay, I don't know. Let's just start with this. Let's see what it comes up with.
I was curious because again, you built so many GPTs, and you also mentioned, building some shitty ones. What, what were the things that you learned that helped you create better ones?
So I think, building something and then testing it out before moving on. So here, probably one thing that I clearly see is that the pro thinking is an overkill unless you want to wait too much. So I would probably just like change the model and try it out. So definitely like testing and iterating and just getting into this habit of, yes, build something, try it out, and if it's not working well, don't just leave it there, but try to go back and try to understand like how can you make it better. There's sometimes when you try it out so many times and try to change it so many times that it's probably better to just like start a new thing. So that happened a lot as well. I feel like with this conversational that I showed you, like how we were building this, it's okay. But if you want to like um, level it up a little bit, it's definitely adding the knowledge base, adding frameworks, adding methodologies, especially if it comes to, let's say, like coaching, or it comes to like onboarding and how you want it to respond. So, like if it's for you, it's probably a different quality. I mean, not that you would
Yeah.
want to build something that is not working for yourself, but if you're sharing it out, you want to make sure that it's actually working well and it's not giving like bad feedback or bad instructions. Clearly,
This
yeah.
also leads me this also leads me a bit to this product mentality, right? Like you have a user that's gonna, if you build for someone else, right? You have a user that's gonna use this, so you should maybe test it out with them and ask them how they feel, like how useful do you feel, do they feel it is? So yeah, it's very much a very product mindset that we can adopt clearly now in L&D as well.
Yeah. And like there's so many things that you can learn from other industries. Definitely product is one, and understanding how you would create a product requirement document, not necessarily for a custom GPT, but it does help if you give it specific instructions on what do you want the user to, what do you want to help with, or what is their role, or what is happening in those conversations. Oh, it's again asking for even more follow-ups and like specific. I think it's good, like if you think about like how the manager use it, you kind of want them to reflect on the situation. And
Mhm.
if you really want this to be a coach for them, think through like, what did you say, or how did that land, or what's your relationship with that person. So it's asking you to role play. Alex, a mid-level IC, you're the manager. I I don't want to go into the. I mean, we can, because then we will see the feedback as well. But like it's really following the instruction on, now this is a role play. What would you say? How would you react to it? It's a lot of text. So I think what I see here, no one is going to read all of this. So
Mhm.
probably I would go back and change that. So let me
Mhm.
just go back to, did I save it here? There you go. So I will go back to, not the right way. So explore, you cannot do it from there. My GPTs. And then here you go. See, I already created this before as well, just to make sure that, all right, configure. And see, this is something that it did in the background. So we did the create, we did have this conversation, but on the basis of that conversation, it actually created the instruction. So it clearly says
Mhm.
like, this helps managers practice difficult conversations. It begins by asking to describe the situation, etc., etc. Um,
Okay, so on the back of the conversation you had with when building the GPT, it assumed instructions by
Yes,
itself.
exactly. And
Okay.
that's why I said probably when you start out doing the conversational way, it's a bit easier because then it gives the
Mhm.
instructions on the basis of that conversation. If you want to level up from here, you would focus on how to make these system instructions much, much more specific. What should it say? What should it not say? What is the exact role? Like what are the methodologies, the frameworks that it should use? How many questions? Like how lengthy the text should be? So you can really make it very, very specific to your use case. It also gave you the conversation starters. So, and this is what I said, probably you could, I mean, it's on Pro, so I'm wondering, I thought that it was on Thinking, but you could change basically the model here as well.
Yeah, got it. Well, like after seeing all of this and hearing your journey, like if you were to maybe go back and start again, is there anything that you would like to learn earlier than you did in your journey?
Yeah, I think this, as people who, as like learning and development professionals, we always think about others learning and we don't necessarily think about how we learn. We are so loud saying that, oh, you should be okay with failures, and that's part of the journey. But when it comes to our own learning, we kind of tend to forget that. So, um, I realized that through my own journey as well, that I just had to be more like, I don't even know what is the right word, resist, not resistant, but more, what is the word? Uh,
Resilient?
Resilient, yes, thank you. In
Hmm.
that, and when you see an error, you don't stop there, you don't give up, you go back. I think that's definitely one. And just having this like experimentation and builder mindset of, like this is different and we are all very uncomfortable learning new skills, and especially if it's something that has code or it's a different like platform every day. So you really have to get back into this mindset of, okay, this is tough, but you can learn anything
Hmm.
if you keep at it and you keep practicing. And I think what you mentioned in the other conversation we had on Lovable, that you can always go to the website and check it out, what they say about the tool. So if you don't know how to best use ChatGPT and build custom GPTs, well, you can always go back to the basics. And I think that's also very important to note here, that you can go back to the basics, and it's okay to go back to the basics, because that's how you learn probably more than anyone else, if you understand like how to prompt it best or how to use the tool best.
So, okay, then we are reaching the end of our conversation, and now I have for you three questions, okay? If you were to complete this sentence, I wish the learning and development industry would.
I wish that we would be more critical of ourselves as well, and try to focus on our own learning too, because what I have been seeing is that we care so much about how other people learn, but we forget that in order for us to be able to teach and create these spaces where people can learn, we also need to understand how these tools work. And I think it's just, like we have to really be there with the people as well. It's fine if you're learning it at the same time, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a bit like we're like the
yeah,
shoemakers without shoes. That's
exactly. Yeah.
what I always say. Okay. Um, what is your message to other L&Ds who feel overwhelmed by AI, by the conversation around AI, by the conversations they're having in their teams and their companies and on LinkedIn and all of that? What would you tell them?
Yeah. I I mean, listen, there is overwhelm. It's overwhelming how many things are coming out and how quickly things are changing. I usually try to say that try to focus on things that you can control. You cannot control how quick this is changing. You cannot control how big this is going to get, or like whether it's a bubble or not. That's a question for another day. But you have to focus on what you can control is it, and that's your mindset. That's how you learn, how you put time away for practice, how you know, like find your communities and really learn together with other people.
Okay. And one last question. What is next for you? What are you building next?
Oh, one thing that I'm very excited about is I have been playing around a lot with cloud skills. I think if you are within learning and development, skills are these like magical words that we love because it's the smallest building blocks for learning. So I have been using Claude to build specific skills that I want to use, and I'm trying to like, be a bit more complex with it and also build like skill clusters basically that I can use. So for example, one that is that knows about like learning science, and one that is learning experience design, instructional design. So these different skills, and how can I use them as my brainstorming partner when it comes to building like learning experiences.
So I think this will be a phrase for every episode, but I guess you're gonna need to come back,
Yeah.
to show us what you've done. Thank you so much for joining as a guest and for
Thank you.
sharing about custom GPTs.